Hey everyone, today we are checking out this fast prime lens for APS-C cameras, the Viltrox 56mm f1.4 AF. This lens is compatible with 4 different mounts at the moment: Canon M, Fujifilm X, Nikon Z and Sony E. I'm using the Fujifilm X mount version on my Fuji X-H2S camera. Just a note, you can purchase it in a kit together with the 23 and 33mm, which I highly recommend. You can check out the reviews for those two in the description down below or at the end of this video. This lens has an effective focal length of 85mm on Fujifilm and Sony cameras, or 90mm on Canon cameras, and 84mm on Nikon cameras, when comparing it to its full frame equivalent. The maximum aperture of this lens is f1.4, which lets you shoot in low light and create beautiful bokeh. The minimum aperture is f16. The price of this lens is very affordable compared to others in its class. It costs around $330. To view the most up-to-date prices, you can click the links in the description below. This review is completely independent. I have no obligations to any entity. However, I strongly recommend that you check out other reviews to get the most comprehensive view of the product. It has an all-metal construction and feels very solid and well made. It weighs 320 grams, which is not too heavy or too light for a lens of this size, and it has a 52mm filter thread. The ergonomics and handling are very good. It has a large focus ring that is smooth and precise, and an aperture ring that can be set to auto mode by turning it to the A position. The aperture ring is declicked, which might be annoying for some people who prefer tactile feedback. Alongside this, the declick nature does not improve its performance for video, as the iris is electronically coupled, so it still jumps to the designated f-stops. This lens has no weather sealing, which is a downside if you plan to use it in harsh environments. The front element does not extend or rotate when focusing, which is great and improves the overall feel. It does have a micro USB port on the mount, which allows you to update the firmware of the lens if needed. This is something most manufacturers do through the camera body, so it's an interesting addition. In terms of accessories, it comes with a metal lens hood that is detachable and reversible, alongside the front and rear lens caps, and a soft pouch for storage. The minimum focus distance is 0.6 meters, which is not very close, but it's never really bothered me personally. The focus ring has an electronic coupling with the camera's focus system. The manual focus performance is good and feels just about as responsive as a mechanical focus ring. The autofocus performance of this lens is decent, just like the others in this kit. It's kind of slow. It uses a linear stepping motor that is quiet. The autofocus accuracy is pretty decent, but it does not perform as well as Fuji XF lenses. Alongside this, it does suffer from some lens breathing, which means the image changes size when focusing from near to far or vice versa. This is usually considered to be quite important for video shooting, as in that area you'll often wish to avoid distracting changes in framing. Now let's move on to how this lens performs optically. All the testing was done on my Fuji X-H2S with in-camera corrections turned off. At f1.4, center sharpness isn't that great, with the corners being kind of soft as well. We do see some chromatic aberration here as well. Stopping down to f2.8, the chromatic aberrations decrease a little, and the sharpness improves quite significantly in the center, but the corners are still a little soft. Stopping down to f4.0, center sharpness improves again, proving to be a very sharp image. The corners have also improved significantly, yet there are still some chromatic aberrations remaining. Stopping down to f5.6, the center sharpness is very good at this aperture. Contrast is also very decent. Stopping down again to f8, we see the best optical performance in the center, alongside very good optical performance in the corners. Stopping down to f11, we do see some diffraction starting to creep in, so overall, contrast is a little less, and that goes for the corners as well. Stopping down to f16, diffraction becomes even heavier, and the overall contrast in the image decreases. Stopping down to f/22, diffraction becomes quite heavy. Not as bad as on some other lenses I've seen, but it's a very soft image overall. In terms of aberrations, we do see a tad bit of pincushion distortion and some vignetting, which disappears at f/2.8 and improves even more at f/4.0. Other than this, there is not much to take note of. Looking at the chromatic aberrations, this lens has quite a few. It's pretty heavy. Keep in mind that this is without any post-processing, so it could easily be removed. In terms of bokeh, the lens produces very nice and clean out-of-focus backgrounds. It's not as characterful as the other lenses in this lineup, but it's pretty decent. This lens doesn't have any built-in image stabilization, which means you have to rely on the camera's stabilization system. The image stabilization performance depends on the camera model you use, but generally speaking, it is not very effective for handheld video shooting at this focal length, although it can reduce some micro jitters. Here is a side-by-side comparison on the Fuji X-H2S. So overall, this may be a great kit to enhance your work. Its overall cost makes it great for beginners, and the quality is decent enough to last you for a prolonged period of time. I find it especially important to note that if you're primarily shooting video, sharpness is not always the most important aspect. It's more about utilizing the character provided by certain lenses to enhance your story. This set really allows you to experiment a lot, so I can highly recommend it. If you enjoyed this video, consider checking out the Viltrox 33mm lens, which I reviewed a little while back, or checking out some of my other channels. And hopefully, see you in the next one.